As we reach the 1-year anniversary of the unfortunate fatal mishap involving a collision of Pat 25, an Army Black Hawk, and Flight 5342, or RJ, going into DCA, the NTSB has released a new video or a new series of videos and information that we haven't seen before. One is a simulation of what both aircraft may have seen that led to the collision, and also from the tower controller and some other new pictures that we haven't seen before. So we're going to take a look at the simulated video. They use Microsoft Flight Sim and a 3D scan laser cut of what the pilot in the right seat, which would have been Warrant Officer Eves, who was the instructor on the flight, may have seen, both through night vision goggles and the naked eye. And then they also show what the RJ would have seen from their perspective. So it's a really tough thing to watch, and it just goes to show you that a lot of things had to come together to make this error chain in this unfortunate collision. So let's take a look. Okay, just here's the time, which you can barely see because YouTube is doing YouTube things. The view of right seat from Pat 25, which was the instructor. There's his night vision goggles. Now realize too, they're binoculars, right? So they're right in front of your eyes. This would be a monocular view. So it's just a simulation, but you don't get the wide field of view even when you're using night vision goggles. So it's like looking through a soda straw. So it's probably a little bit bigger field of view, but this is a pretty accurate representation where you have to look. Like you can't just look straight ahead and pick up stuff with your peripheral vision. You know, you're only seeing through this small field of view. And then the laser cut for, this would be the left seat window, what they're seeing, and then the front seat window here.
15, Gus 25, traffic 2 out, no delay, runway 1, clear takeoff.
Blackjack 1, landing third board, water.
Blackjack 1, roger for exchange for good night.
Pat 25 Memorial.
Pat 25, roger.
Okay, Pat 25 Memorial at the bridge. We've talked about the cockpit communication, lots of right pedal, ma'am. And that's because they had that crosswind. So it's kind of blowing them off course a little bit. And they hit the bridge and they're like,
American,
okay, we can make the turn.
130 Washington Tower, 1 star 31014, Gus 25, runway 1, clear to land. Check with department.
They're clearing right and left. So they hit the bridge. Now they're supposed to descend down to 200, and the instructor is basically telling her to do that. Pointing out obstacles, which you would, hey, there's a crane, no factor.
Concept on Barge, good day.
American 3130 pretty much normal at this point.
Pat 25, traffic just off the Wilson Bridge to CRJ at 1,200 feet, circle runway 33. American 1630.
All right, so they think they have the traffic in sight. They're looking through this soda straw. They request visual separation. You can see this dot over here. They may be looking at, obviously, they're going to be looking at it through the green, not naked eye, but everything is lined up over here at this point as they're snaking around the river.
Tower, runway 1, lot boy, traffic throughout circle runway 33, this traffic on 6 mile final.
Okay, there's where flight 5342 actually is. Here's a flight that, maybe that's what they picked up. There's a couple over here. So again, this is not simulating where they were looking, just what the soda straw view looks like. But, if you're telling me, hey, there's traffic and I'm looking for something close, there are 4 targets I could possibly be seeing right now. And that's what they would look like.
17, stand by. Wish you 5307. Keep rolling out to November, ground 47. Good day.
So they say he's got them stacked up tonight, probably talking about both the comms and, looking out the windscreen there. You've got, again, 1, 2, 3, 4 targets. I think there was one over here. There's maybe just some farther out. So we don't know which one they were looking at, but Right now they're at 270 feet, and the other aircraft is at 900 feet, and they're snaking around.
American 16, turn to 1 star 32014, gust 25, traffic 2 mile up base runway 33, no delay, runway 1 clear for immediate takeoff.
All right. One thing I want to point out is this is the departure end of runway 1. So they're looking at potentially an aircraft taking off here. They don't talk about it, but that's another factor, immediate takeoff. But they're really talking about the winds. The wind is blowing pretty hard. It's causing them to crab. They're at 230 feet, so 30 feet high. Not, it's not a huge difference, especially we don't know where the information came from. Like they could be reading right on or low, because it could be 75 feet off between the two altimeters in the cockpit even.
Muscle 70 request. Most of you say route 3 to zone 6. Most 7 approved.
So up to 270 feet, 280 feet. So they're getting a little high.
National Tower, good evening. Air Care 1's with you. Single medevac helicopter 1,000 feet, 29901 on the altimeter. Requesting zone 6 for Fairfax.
Medevac Air Care 1, Washington Tower, national altimeter 29990.
So you see here, you've got the aircraft 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This one's splitting off because it's circling. But still, at this point, if you're looking at the wrong one, it's hard to tell.
Approved to Washington class, Robert Space Support Landing Shirt at Fairfax.
29990 for Air Care 1, copy.
And if you look at what Eves is looking at, this is all blocked. He can't see these two. He sees this one. He sees this one. He may or may not be able to see this one based on how Lobach is sitting, right, with her helmet and stuff like that, or how far back he is. But there's no way to know which one they think they're seeing at this point.
Pat 25, do you have CRJ in sight? Pat 25, pass behind the CRJ.
65 has a aircraft in sight, precision separation.
This separation.
All right. So he says he's got him in sight. He could be looking at this one right here, this one right here, that one, that one, that one. They all look the same. And you're looking at them through NVGs. All right. So people are, we've talked about this a lot of times. All right, come left for me, ma'am. I think that's why he's asking. Sure. There's no debate. There's no argument. People say she ignored his instructions. This is very casual. This is not, you're ignoring my commands and doing whatever you want. This is a very casual. He's a little bit confused too, because he's not looking at the right aircraft. She doesn't see it at all. And they're thinking, okay, well, let's come left a little bit. Realize too, at this point, they're at 280 feet to 320 feet, and they're about to hit. And that even that 200 feet, an 80-foot delta is not a huge amount in this kind of environment. And I'll talk about that in a second.
American 472, Washington.
All right, that's where they hit right there. So there's the airplane right there. I doubt he ever even saw it. They hit and he never even saw it, because they're talking about out towards the middle. They're probably looking out here. You know, they think this aircraft is it, or one of these other ones. They think they've got more time than they do. They've lost situational awareness, and they hit 280 feet to 290 feet. An 80-foot difference is not acceptable. It's just not. Like, they were within the lateral confines of the route, and to plan a route where you need 80, I mean, we don't accept that anywhere. RVSM, 1,000 feet. The fact that this would have been a close call if everybody had been on altitude. This is just, it was never an acceptable practice. They got away with it for a long time. And eventually it lined up when you had a crew that had lower situational awareness. But Lobach didn't intentionally ignore commands. The instructor wasn't like super negligent. They just made a mistake. And the route structure created this situation because 80 feet is like it. You could be off that much. Your altimeters could be off that much and be perfectly fine. So, I mean, that's not, I don't see that as valid. The fact that they were ever in the same piece of sky is the problem. And honestly, this route should never have existed in the first place. But having circling the land traffic and passing underneath, if you pass within 80 feet of another aircraft, like we'd still be talking about this. It wouldn't have been probably as fatal. The helicopter might have been a fatality because the wake turbulence and stuff like that would have been a very bad situation for them. But the root cause is this route, the route structure. The contributing factors are lost situational awareness, poor crew coordination, poor visual scan, the confirmation bias when they saw what they thought they saw and they didn't confirm with each other. They're kind of talking about other stuff. They're distracted about winds and stuff like that. But all this other stuff about, well, she ignored, that's nonsense. This is obviously not the case. Okay.
789 star 3
so now we're going to see the right seat of 5342.
Runway 1 clear takeoff.
Clear takeoff, runway 1, no delay, Jazz 789.
Flight Jet 1, Roger for exchange for good night. Pat 25, Roger.
So they can hear the controller talking Pat 25, but
American
they can't hear Pat 25, and Pat 25 can't hear them.
31014, goes 25, runway 1 clear to land. Traffic will may depart parts arrival.
Okay, clear to land, runway 1, American 3130.
So he's manually hand flying it. It's the captain hand flying the approach. They're configured. They're clearing the flight director, which I would need the flight director. I don't know. I would never turn that off. I love the flight director.
JS 789, concept on parts, good day.
Okay.
American 3130, slow the funnel.
Slow on American 3130.
Pat 25, traffic just south of Wilson Bridge to CRJ at 1,000.
So they hear them talking to Pat 25. They don't hear Pat 25 respond. Pat 25 is not hearing them.
Runway 1, lot boy, traffic through outside from runway 33, this traffic on 6 off funnel.
Line up and wait, runway 1, American 1630. American 472 by Cat, runway 1.
17, stand by. Wish you 5307. Keep rolling out to November, ground point 7. Good day.
November 307.
All right, so 1,000 feet stable. Misapproach altitude was set. All standard calls.
American 16, turn to 1 star 32014, gust 25, traffic 2 mile up base, runway 33, no delay, runway 1 clear for immediate takeoff.
Number 1, clear for takeoff, American 1630.
So if I'm in the RJ, I'm hearing that, and I'm more worried about the crossing traffic taking off when I'm landing. You can tell there's no discussion whatsoever about the helicopter traffic at all because they're focused on this challenging circling approach. And probably the other aircraft taking off are just focusing on a stable approach. I mean, you're busy in an airliner at this point.
Muscle 70 request. Approved through Washington class, Robert Space, Portland, Insured at Fairfax.
Okay, 500 feet on top of the bug, sinking 7. So they got 700 foot a minute sink rate. Their speed is correct for the bug, and it's a stable approach. So they're doing well. You can see white over red, so that's looking good. They're looking this way. I guarantee you. They're not looking over here at the helicopter traffic. And they haven't mentioned it again, so they're not even thinking about it. I mean, it's out the back. 2 white, 2 red. Cool. So the fact that the FO said that tells you he's looking here, and he's in the best position to see this. Again, not his fault, though. I mean, that's what you're supposed to be doing.
Pat 25, do the CRJ in sight. Pat 25, pass line.
All right, so they get a traffic, and they're hearing them talk about Pat 25, and tower says pass behind. So if I'm doing this, I might look out But I'm thinking, okay, that's a nuisance traffic call because there's just so much traffic in this area. I mean, he may have flown here before and had this happen. He may have had just other reasons that, hey, I'm just focusing on the approach, but the hair on the back of my neck is not standing up because like there's nothing that in the audio that sounds like, hey, there's a problem.
It's RJ.
And even if you could, look at that. That's all in cultural lighting. That's hard to see. It would be, I mean, very hard for these dudes to see this. Especially a tinier helicopter. You know, I mean, Blackhawks aren't tiny, but you know what I mean? Compared to an airliner.
4782, my bad.
Plus 100, you know, that's 100 above minimums, whatever they had set. He's a little high on the glide slope, but doesn't really matter. They might be on the starting to go around at this point.
That's not for visual.
American 472, Washington.
Yep. So they see it at the last second, which is horrible. Yeah, they're starting to go around here. It's horrible. 280 feet to 290 feet. Just, I mean, last possible second. I mean, you can barely see that even right there. And they try.
Star 1, star 32.
And, you know, if they had done nothing, I mean, they'd hit it head on versus they hit it towards the bottom. But they never should have been in the same area. Just altitude doesn't matter. There's no reason for this to have ever existed. And NTSB chair said the same thing. And they have pointed this out that like 100-foot separation on a good day is not sufficient. We never should have accepted this. Doesn't matter who's right or wrong in the aircraft. The design of this was terrible. This is really the biggest thing. Best case, you had 75 feet. You know, if you were on altitude. Now, if you were at the bottom of the altitude, you had a little bit more, but even 200-foot separation is not sufficient. Terrible. That's a horrible, horrible, horrible design. That is where they hit. You can see that there. That's the rotor into the fuselage, which is right at the aft. I mean, they almost missed them. I mean, that's how close they came. A rotor blade hit in the back. I mean, a second earlier, and this would have been a different scenario. That's aviation mishaps. It's a game of seconds. And then there's the helicopter upside down in the water. Awful. Awful, awful, awful. There is the animation for the control tower, but I don't really think it shares anything that is worthwhile other than
branch.
It's hard to see, right?
Audio recordings.
You've got all this stuff in the way.
At lower right.
So hard to see here. Sees him, but it's hard to see this guy. They have a hard job as it is. They were set up for failure. You can't blame the controller either because they're set up for failure. He's saying visual separation. This is a structural issue. This is the infrastructure and how we accepted this risk for so long, and it finally became a factor. So, I mean, that's my take on it, having flown helicopters and airliners. You know, in helicopters, you're in a lot of places where visibility is bad, looking across, you know, looking out, especially being low to the ground with cultural lighting and stuff like that. NVGs would make it even tougher. I'm not excusing them, but I still think that even if they had been at 200 feet, this would still be something. Now, as close as they passed, if they had been at 200 feet, it probably would have missed. But the wake turbulence would have put them in a bad spot for the helicopter, which, okay, 3 people versus the, entire RJ. So I agree with that. It's just, I think when you look at root causes, having them ever in that same piece of sky and accepting between 75 and, 200 feet is just, you can't do that. RJ pilots did everything they could to save it. I mean, game of inches, right? If they had been 1 second earlier on that go around, they'd have saved it and been, heroes. But you can't expect that. You cannot, that's not their fault. It's just a comment that how close they were from this not being that. And, that's part of it, but awful mishap. They've changed the route structure in this area, and I think they're going to continue to look at it. I know there's some other comments about, well, what were they doing on a check ride? I don't think that matters. I think having the aircraft flying in that vicinity is a problem. Flying under an approach path with aircraft like flying over you is just not a good idea. It needs to be clear, so we've learned a lot from this mishap, and I think we're going to continue to learn. And there's other places in the country that have similar setups that I think will be evaluated, and we'll go, how do we fix this so this doesn't happen again? But let me know in the comments what you think. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.